Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds talks with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney in New Delhi. Focus on India-Canada strategic partnership. Leaders also to attend India-Canada CEOs Forum. Iran conflict widens on day 3 as Israel strikes Lebanon after Hezbollah strikes. While Tehran continues with retaliatory strikes on Gulf states, security chief stresses will not negotiate with the US. US President Donald Trump says there will likely be more US deaths as Iran strikes continue until all objectives are achieved. And in the T20 World Cup, India joined South Africa in the final 4 of the competition to play against England on Thursday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today held talks with his Canadian counterpart Mark Carney in New Delhi. Both leaders reviewed the progress achieved till date across diverse areas of the India-Canada strategic partnership, building on their earlier meetings in Kananaskis in June 2025 and Johannesburg in November 2025. The leaders also took stock of ongoing cooperation in key pillars including trade and investment, energy, critical minerals, agriculture, education, research and innovation, and people-to-people ties. They also exchanged views on regional and global developments. Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Carney will also attend the India-Canada CEOs Forum scheduled later in the day. All right, and the exchange of MOUs will take place shortly. Ahead of the meeting with PM Modi, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on the visiting dignitary in New Delhi this morning. Jaishankar appreciated PM Carney's commitment towards charting a forward-looking partnership. Also in New Delhi is Rwanda's Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Minister, who arrived this morning on an official visit. At the airport, the visiting dignitary was received by the Joint Secretary for East and Southern Africa at India's Ministry of External Affairs. During his visit, Rwandan Foreign Minister will attend the 11th Raisina Dialogue and the 2nd India-Rwanda Joint Commission meeting. Amid heightened tensions across the West Asia and widespread concern in India about potential repercussions, Ministry of Home Affairs has issued high alert to Indian states. In a letter to the states, the ministry cautioned against possible violence in India in the wake of Israel-US strikes against Iran. The letter was circulated on February 28, asking the states to identify pro-Iran radical preachers giving inflammatory sermons. Reportedly, officials in New Delhi said the situation is being closely watched not only for its geopolitical impact, but also for the risk that global developments could be exploited by extremist elements to inflame local sentiments. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan late Sunday night. On social media, PM said, and I quote, "Strongly condemned the attacks on the UAE and condole the loss of lives in these attacks. India stands in solidarity with the UAE in these difficult times. Thanked him for taking care of the Indian community living in the UAE. We support de-escalation, regional peace, security and stability. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi also spoke with Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu in a telephonic conversation. The leaders discussed the ongoing regional situation and its implications. During the call, PM Modi conveyed India's concerns regarding the recent developments in the region, underscoring the safety and security of civilians as a top priority. He also reiterated India's firm stance on the urgent need for an immediate cessation of hostilities. And this is the tweet, this is a post. Amid airspace closures due to Iran strikes, the safety of Indians stranded en masse at various airports across the West Asia, as well as those living in Iran and Israel, remains India's key focus. To discuss the same, Prime Minister Narendra Modi late Sunday held Cabinet Committee on Security at his residence. The committee was briefed on the air strikes in Iran on 20th of February and the subsequent escalation, including attacks in several Gulf countries. It expressed serious concern over the safety and security of the large Indian expatriate community in the region. The CCS also reviewed the difficulties faced by Indian travelers transiting the region and students appearing for scheduled examinations, as well as the broader implications for regional security and economic and commercial activities. The CCS directed all concerned departments to take necessary and feasible measures to assist Indian nationals affected by the developments. It underscored the importance of an early cessation of hostilities and a return to dialogue and diplomacy. Cabinet Committee on Security is the highest decision-making body on security and strategic matters of the country. Israel and Hezbollah have been exchanging fire as Iran conflict widens. Israel said it is striking at the heart of Tehran and is launching attacks on Lebanon after the militant group Hezbollah said it had launched rockets and drones at Israel. The Israeli military told residents of about 50 towns and villages in Lebanon to evacuate, warning of further strikes against Hezbollah militants. Reacting on the development, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, whose government has pushed for Hezbollah's disarmament, called Monday's rocket fire irresponsible. On social media, he said such action endangers Lebanon's security and safety and gives Israel pretext to continue its attack on it. Without naming Hezbollah, Salam vowed to stop the perpetrators and protect the Lebanese people. Fresh strikes were heard across the Gulf on Monday as Tehran pressed into a third day of strikes, including on the cities of Dubai, Doha and Manama. Several loud blasts were heard in the Qatari and Bahraini capitals, as well as in the United Arab Emirates' most populous city. The United States and its Arab allies earlier condemned Iran for launching a wave of strikes on Gulf states hosting U.S. troops. In a joint statement with Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, the U.S. State Department said that targeting of civilians and of countries not engaged in hostilities is reckless and destabilizing behavior. Ali Larijani, the Secretary of Iran's National Security Council, has stressed that Iran will not negotiate with the United States. In a post on social media platform, Larijani denied media reports that Iranian officials had sought to initiate talks with the Trump administration following a wave of U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran over the weekend, which came after Tehran and Washington held nuclear negotiations. Earlier, Trump had claimed that Iran's new leadership wanted to talk to him and that he has agreed. Earlier, US President Donald Trump has warned that combat operations in Iran were continuing and would carry on until all of Washington's objectives are achieved. Trump confirmed in a video posted on Truth Social that 3 US service members had been killed and said there would likely be more casualties, vowing to avenge the deaths of Americans.
The United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved.
As the conflict entered its third day on Monday, Trump said 48 Iranian leaders had been killed and that the US military had started sinking Iran's navy, destroying 9 Iranian warships so far and going after the rest. France, Germany and the UK have agreed to work with the US and regional allies to address the situation of indiscriminate Iranian attacks on the countries in the region. The European nations in a joint statement expressed their appalled response to these attacks and have called for Iran to stop them immediately. They have also pledged to take necessary and proportionate defensive measures to protect their interests and those of their allies in the region. This includes enabling defensive actions to destroy Iran's capability to fire missiles and drones at their source. The leaders have confirmed their commitment to work closely with the US and regional allies to address the situation. This agreement follows a series of missile and drone strikes by Iran on several Gulf countries, which have been described as indiscriminate and disproportionate. However, in a video message on social media, Starmer made it clear that Britain will not be involved directly in the strikes.
The United States has requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive purpose. We have taken the decision to accept this request. Our decision that the UK would not be involved with the strikes on Iran was deliberate, not least because we believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement, one in which Iran agrees to give up any aspirations to develop a nuclear weapon.
Meanwhile, an overnight drone strike hit Britain's Royal Air Force base of Akrotiri in Cyprus that caused limited damage with no casualties reported. Cyprus president said that the Shahed type unmanned aerial vehicle crashed into the military facilities around midnight. He further clarified that his country does not participate in any way and does not intend to be part of any military operation. Besides, France is making efforts to ensure the safety of its citizens in the region as well as their repatriation when the airspace reopens. President Macron held a meeting of Defense and National Security Council in Paris on Sunday in this regard. He called Iran's retaliatory strikes on other West Asian countries disproportionate and indiscriminate and said France was strengthening its defensive posture in the region. Meanwhile, in U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will hold a press conference on Monday about the joint U.S.-Israeli military campaign against Iran, the first by a senior official since strikes began Saturday. The press conference will be held at 6:30 p.m. as per Indian Standard Time. Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, will also take part. Further, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will brief leaders of the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives at 2100 GMT on Monday. The White House said that top U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, will make the case to Congress for the attack on Iran, as Democrats and some Republicans question its rationale. White House spokesman Dylan Johnson said apart from Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and Military Chief General Dan Kane will brief the full membership of both chambers of the Congress on Tuesday. The International Atomic Energy Agency will hold an extraordinary meeting on Iran on Monday in the wake of the US-Israeli strikes on the Islamic Republic, aimed in part at Tehran's atomic program. The agency will hold a special session of the IAEA Board of Governors on matters related to military strikes of the United States and Israel against the territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Monday's emergency meeting will start an hour before a long-scheduled quarterly meeting of the board, at which Iran's nuclear program was already on the agenda. Following the strikes, the IAEA said it was closely monitoring developments in the Middle East and urges restraint to avoid any nuclear safety risks to people in the region. Diplomats said there was no indication Iranian nuclear facilities were struck on Saturday. Updates on Afghanistan and Pakistan now. The Ministry of National Defense of the Islamic Emirate stated that it had carried out airstrikes on major military installations in Pakistan, including the Nur Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, describing the action as a response to Pakistani air raids on Afghan territory. In a post on X, the Ministry of National Defense of Afghanistan stated that the strikes include the Nur Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, the 12th Brigade Base in Quetta, Balochistan, and the Khoizai camp in the Mohmand agency, in fact, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, along with other military sites housing key facilities and centers. Some more updates from across the globe. In fact, the FBI is investigating a deadly late-night shooting at a bar in Austin, Texas, as a potential act of terrorism. Police said 3 people were killed and another 14 injured when a male gunman opened fire from a vehicle in front of a bar in the city's busy 6th Saint District. It added that 3 of the wounded were in critical condition. It added that the suspect was later killed in an exchange of fire with police at a different downtown location. As per the site intelligence group and Austin police, the gunman, a U.S. citizen of Senegalese origin, had expressed pro-Iranian regime sentiment and hatred for Israeli and U.S. leaders on social media since 2017. The shooting comes amid heightened security in many American cities following the launching of U.S. and Israeli airstrikes on Iran. Moving on, Nepal's election campaign enters its final day on Monday, with rival leaders making a last push in a tightly contested race. The Himalayan Republic will elect a new parliament on Thursday, replacing the interim government that has led the country since September 2025 uprising. Sushila Karki, who is serving as interim prime minister until the March 5 vote, has said the election will draw the future of the country. Among the key figures is KP Sharma Oli, the 74-year-old Marxist leader ousted as prime minister last year. He faces a high-profile challenge in his home constituency from former Kathmandu mayor Balendra Shah, a 35-year-old rapper turned politician. 2 weeks of campaigning have showcased a wave of younger candidates promising to tackle Nepal's woeful economy, challenging veteran politicians. And we are heading for a short break. You stay tuned to DD India.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. The Indian naval sailing vessel Kaundinya will be ceremonially flagged into Mumbai harbour on Monday. The flagging ceremony marks the successful completion of the vessel's maiden overseas voyage to the Sultanate of Oman and her historic return passage across the Arabian Sea, reaffirming India's enduring maritime heritage and India-Oman linkages across the Indian Ocean. During her stay, the vessel was open to visitors, serving as a floating symbol of maritime heritage and cultural diplomacy. The voyage significantly strengthened India-Oman linkages rooted in the millennia of trade in spices, textiles and frankincense, and reinforced shared seafaring traditions across the Arabian Sea. The expedition highlighted the Indian Navy's role not only as a maritime security provider but also as a custodian of India's civilizational maritime legacy. Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Health and Family Welfare Ministry of India for rolling out nationwide HPV vaccination campaign to protect girls from cervical cancer. Dr. Tedros, in a social media post, said that WHO is committed to working with all countries through its cervical cancer elimination initiative to ensure girls and women can live their lives free from this preventable disease. A sensational unbeaten 97 from Sanju Samson powered India to a thrilling 5-wicket victory over West Indies in T20 World Cup Super 8 game, sealing their place in the semi-finals. Chasing a challenging 196, India pulled off their highest successful run chase in T20 World Cup history. It was 173 earlier in 2014 World Cup. With this win, India move into the semi-finals with strong momentum. They will now face England on Thursday, March 5th, in what promises to be a thrilling contest between top two T20 sides at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. In another match for the semi-finals position, South Africa produced an unconvincing performance with the bat but beat Zimbabwe by 5 wickets to set up a semi-final against New Zealand. An 18-ball 42 from Dewald Brevis at number 4 proved crucial as wickets stumbled in South Africa's chase of 154 before George Linde and Tristan Stubbs saw them over the line with 13 balls to spare. South Africa, who have won all 7 of their matches in this tournament, are searching for a maiden T20 World Cup title, having previously reached the final in 2024. The match will be played on March 4th, that is Wednesday. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on Android and iOS platform, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.